He's established. Established. To establish something is to make something, right? He's established and what? He left, right? 떠났다. To leave is to go away, right? To leave. He's left. But because he's leaving something significant behind, you could say he's left behind. 뭔가 중요한 것을 두고 떠나셨죠? 그냥 떠나신 게 아니죠. So you could say he's established and left behind a new civilization. He's established and left behind a new civilization. And we continue on. 영화보다 더 영화 같은 삶을 살다 떠난 IT의 거장 스티브 잡스. 자, IT의 거장은 IT guru라고 할 수 있어요. We learned the word guru a couple weeks back, remember? It means someone really big in the industry, someone that represents the industry. So, he was an IT guru. What? 영화 같은 삶을 살다 떠난. 자, we're talking about him. So we could just elaborate further on. Who lived a life 영화보다 더 영화 같은. And there are a couple of words I want you to take away. Now, because it's more cinematic. 영화보다 더 영화 같다. More cinematic than what? 영화는 영어로 movies이죠. Movies. So, you're going to refer to as the movies. The movies. So, a life more cinematic than the movies. 영화 같은 삶. 자, and his name was Steve Jobs. Now, because we haven't elaborated who he was, I think an introduction at the very end will suffice for this sentence. And his name was Steve Jobs. You're being a little bit dramatic, holding out on who specific subject is until the end of the sentence. So altogether, you could say, he was an IT guru who lived a life more cinematic than the movies. And his name was Steve Jobs. His name was Steve Jobs. You're being a little bit more dramatic in its execution. So you continue on. 미국의 버락 오바마 대통령은 그의 죽음을 이렇게 말했습니다. 가장 위대한 혁신가를 잃었다. Alright, so 미국 버락 오바마 대통령, the President of the United States, Barack Obama. That's pretty straightforward, right? And he said, we lost a great innovator. 현신가는 innovator죠. So we lost a great innovator. This is what he said. And we talked about a couple of ways to say, right? But because here it's an exact quote, what did I say? What kind of word should we use? Had this to, would you use a word say or speak? You would use say, because it's exactly what he said. Had this to say about 뭐에 대해서 말씀하셨죠? 그의 죽음, 스티브 잡스의 죽음에 대해서 about his death. So why wouldn't I use passing away here? Because it's referred to as death too. It's not rude to say death, okay? It's much more shorter in this context. So you could say his death. And of course, the colon rule is quite simple. The second clause should define what goes before the colon, okay? So because it's an exact quote, you could just say colon. All right, so altogether, you could say the President of the United States, Barack Obama, had this to say about his death. We lost a great innovator. We lost a great innovator. And of course, he responds. 맞습니다. 맞습니다. 그래서 한국말로 네, 맞습니다. 이런 거 뭐 yes, okay, sure 뭐 이런 단어로 사용할 수 있다고 했는데요. In this context, you're agreeing with what the person said or what the previous speaker said before you, right? So you can say, I agree 100%. I agree 100%. 당신이 방금 전에 한 말과 동의합니다. 이런 뜻에서 I agree 100% 이렇게 말씀하실 수 있어요. So one more time. 맞습니다. I agree 100%. I agree 100%. Let's take a closer look at the next sentence. 시한부 삶을 살다가 지난 10월 5일 암으로 세상을 떠났습니다. 자, 시한부 삶을 살다. This is a very tough word or tough expression to translate to English. But terminally ill, 굉장히 아픈, 고칠 수 없는 병, terminally ill 이라고 많이 사용해요. Steve Jobs was terminally ill. And what? 지난 10월 5일 암으로 세상을 떠났죠. So I can use the word pass away here, pass away. But because it has already happened, you use the past tense, which is passed away, passed away. And because you know the exact date, what word would you use? On, because you know the exact date, which is October 5th, October 5th. Okay? He was terminally ill and passed away on October 5th. What? Because of cancer, right? You can use a word from cancer, from leukemia, from a lot of different diagnoses out there, but you can say from the disease, okay? So altogether you could say, he was terminally ill and passed away on October 5th from cancer, And so she responds, 인터넷 세상에선 그의 죽음을 애도하는 추모 물결이 넘쳐났습니다. There's a lot of people on the internet who's mourning his death, right? Mourning his death. 자, 인터넷 세상에서 그의 죽음을 애도하는 추모 물결이 넘치다. There's a very similar expression in the English language, and it's to overflow. But because it's continuing,